As always, today's podcast is sponsored by Fire Facilities, makers of reliable, all-American steel fire training structures built the way you train. Fire Facilities towers, burn rooms, and mobile units help you prepare to respond and survive. I need to tell you something. So I cheated and I stole something from Scottsburg, and I didn't realize I stole it. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but my very first logo, right? This isn't the first one, but this is the second one. The first one that kind of looked like this was stolen from what you have on your shirt. So you had that Maltese, three-sided Maltese. I had three-point firefighter. So I was all proud about it and set it up. And then I saw you at a meeting, and I looked at your logo. I said, "Oh, I just stole it from Scottsburg."
I designed this logo. I was did a lot of graphic design work before, as I was beginning the fire service and such. So, could have had it.
See, I should have got a hold of you. So, tell me a little bit about Scottsburg, Indiana.
Sure. Yeah. Obviously, Scottsburg's a small community, a little small city. Just right up I-65, about 20 minutes from you in New Albany. We've established in 1910, so we've been around a little bit. Pretty well all volunteer. In 1995, we had a paid chief, and then from that point on, we've just continued to grow slowly but surely. But right now, we are a small combination fire department. We have full-time, part-time, and then we still do have at least half the fire department is still volunteer. We responded to 2 stations, make a little over 1,000 calls a year, and we stay pretty busy. We've made a pretty significant name for ourselves in training with our training facility, and we're constantly continue to keep growing on that. So,
wait a minute, your training facility?
That's right.
Do you mean Fire Facilities?
Absolutely. There you go. Yeah, we've had that for close to 25 years now. So
it's holding up pretty good.
It's excellent. We have the lieutenant model. We've got 4 stories, rappel. We've got an SCBA maze built inside it. We've got a little small knee wall, burn room, ventilation prop, the whole works. So, yeah. That's
awesome. I need to come up there and look at it. We talked earlier about me squeezing a look up in there.
Sure.
Let's see. I've been in a ton of those fire facilities, and they last. That all steel training tower, you can't go wrong with that. Now, I see behind you some articles. I take it those are your. Well, tell me about those. Those are awesome.
So these are just some ideas that come to mind as we all do in the fire service. We have a good idea and we sit on it for a while, and then just kind of thoughts on paper is what I'll call it. And then I submit it. And so far, I've done pretty well with it. I have 3. I have 1 in the social media impacts in the fire service. We live in a different world today where, we have internet firefighters or people like to share material or their opinion, and they really don't understand that sometimes it reflects more than just themselves. It reflects their department, the service, everything. Another one that we worked on was fire service leadership. Pretty much as a company officer or as a chief officer, it doesn't matter. You obtain much more responsibility. Your job should be 10 times harder with every rank you go. And sometimes that's misunderstood. You get some departments where the mindset is, well, if I get to that rank, then I got to do less work. And unfortunately, that's not the case. And then the most recent one was just a personal and professional assessment. Like I said, I'm somebody that at times, I get a chance to, some downtime, some personal time. You try to keep yourself in check, right? And we can talk about that. But I feel that it's important and it's critical that if you're going to be a leader, or you're going to make a difference in the fire service or any career really, that it's critical that you keep yourself in check to where your goals are. It's so easy to get lost in the problems in the fire service and the problems with our calls and the mental trauma and things that takes place, that you can get sidetracked from where you originally started, or the original goals and purpose that you started or created in your head. And so that's really just an easy way for me to try to make sure that me as myself, that I'm still prepared to do this job and to prepare to, the people underneath me. And it's also a great way that, you can kind of assess your company, assess the people on your on your shift, and or within your department. So we can talk a little bit more about that as well. But yeah,
I'm pretty interested in that stuff. So at my department, we don't do any written evaluations or skill evaluations. Now, it's not a fault on my department. I'm not hammering my department.
Sure.
It's just an objective fact. But we're working on it, and I think where it was probably a far off project, I think I can kind of see it coming towards us, which is great. But I personally feel like you have to have some type of evaluations in the fire service. So what have you dealt with at Scottsburg? What do you all use?
Well, we do just, annual evaluations of everybody's performance and trainings and response to calls and the basic things you would see on a department our size. But this is something that's a little different, and it's something that I kind of do myself. So I'll take it like this. Why do we change our oil in our vehicle, right? Change our oil in a vehicle to make sure it's running, make sure it's going to last a length of time, and make sure that it's going to be dependable for us. It's the same reason why we go to the doctor or anything else. We make sure our body's checked up, make sure everything is good to go. And ever so often, I feel it's important to keep yourself grounded, to remember where am I at? And I kind of, every time that I would think about this, I would just be walking in circles, and my head would go round and round about, what am I looking for? What am I trying to measure myself against? And so what I ended up coming up with was an acronym, KSAP, KSAP, we'll call it. And it's knowledge, skill, ability, and personality. And so, when you think about this, and this is in the December of Fire Engineering of 2022, but we talk a lot about your knowledge base. As a firefighter, we're all going to be at different levels of experience and different levels of our interest and our passion in the service. We all work alongside people that are great people, but they don't have the passion as you and I or other people do. And years, that used to frustrate me. I used to get so aggravated, and why don't these guys love the job? Or why don't they want to go out here and drill or work? And it's hard because you have to understand that not everybody's going to want the same drive as you or have the same passion or same goals.
Right.
But touching base on the knowledge part of things, as to be a good firefighter, especially as a company officer, I feel like it's important that you understand the knowledge in the fire service, history, traditions, the values of what brought all of us this opportunity. It's the greatest job in the world. And you have to be the one that knows, especially if you're a company officer, you got to know the simple things: fire alarm activation, smells and bells, CO alarms. You got to know those basic calls that are, as bad as educational or elementary as you can get, all the way up to the in-depths of fire behavior and dynamics and flow paths and heat release rates and everything, right? Those are all absolutely critical. So I feel it's important that we, knowledgeable firefighter. And so when I'm looking at not only myself, but if I'm looking at, people on my shift or company or just guys in my department, I'm trying to assess, if I pulled up you, okay, I'm like, all right, Jake, here he is. Is he knowledgeable? Basically sum it up. Do you know this job? Can you do this job? If I'm absent and you guys are on that call, do I have 100% confident trust that you guys are going to know what you're doing? And not only know what you're doing, but how you're doing it. Mm-hmm. And I've always used the reference. We have a community walking trail in front of our headquarters, and it's used all the time. And I always say I can pull anybody off the street and teach them ventilation or forcible entry or whatever. Give me a little bit of time and I can teach you. The difference is that not only do you know how to do it, but why you're doing it and where we're doing that ventilation tactic at, or where we're doing this and this make or break this incident. So that's the do you know it part, or the knowledge part. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of get into the skill. How many firefighters do you work with on a daily basis that probably can't or struggle with some basic fundamentals in firefighting? Okay, you could probably name 1 or 2 or 5 or 6, 10. We can keep going, right? That mm-hmm. have not much more than their basic fire academy course. They know how to throw a ladder. They know how to advance a hose line. They know how to hook up to a fire department connection. But do they know that same scenario in under pressure, under the conditions, when somebody's hanging out that window, when there's time to do a vent inner search, high angle rescue, anything like that, right? Mm-hmm. And so, can you do this job? Are you John Salkin it out here and just the glorified, just the baddest of baddest firefighters, and
right. Uh-oh, shit, you got to go.
Yeah, no, it's not. But, that's the thing is, do you have the skill, And so basically, can you do this job? Can you do this job? There's a lot of people that got hired because they passed the agility, they passed their CPAP, they interviewed well, but can you do this job? And then the last one is probably the toughest, and that's the ability. To me, can you manage the company? Can you see, your company, your guys more than anybody. And if you're not identifying behavioral problems or behavioral changes or lack in motivation, you have to have the ability to address that and to handle that and to fix that problem, to motivate, to be that encouragement. So my point with that would be is, can you control it? And then the last one is the personality. And that's a little bit more subjective than others because, in this world, you got to be a likable person. You can't be that guy that you can be the best fireman in the world, the best manager, the best chief, the best fire officer, best fire instructor, doesn't matter. But if no one likes you, then no one's going to follow you. But then again, you can't be that person that says, I'm the most likable guy here, but I can't lead myself at all. I can't even self-discipline myself to be on time. So that's the most difficult one, is to try to make sure that you are maintaining that level of personality. And for me personally, I'm going to be honest with you, that's something that I struggle with out of all of these. And the reason being is because, I'm so passionate about things and I get so driven about things that sometimes I allow that to be, my frustrations, my irritations to kind of spill over. And those are things that I'm working on. So without this, I would have never been able to identify that. So right. I just look at it as that. It's very simple. Knowledge, skill, ability, and personality. Do I know this job? Can I do this job? Can I control this job? And do I have the personality to lead others? And that's kind of where it comes down to.
That's awesome. Now, when I became training officer, I had plenty of friends when I became training officer, and then I immediately lost all of them on my department. So I figure now, God forbid I die, but I think my wife and father-in-law are going to have to be my pallbearers. They're going to have to be right. At least 2 of the pallbearers.
Right. And that's something that, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Being the training officer is it's the best job in the world. Don't get me wrong, but you get challenged on some of the silliest things all the time. And it's never, it's different teaching your people versus teaching other people. When you're teaching other people, chances are it's people that want to be there, and they like training. They love the job. Yes. When you're teaching your own people, sometimes they don't want to be there. Training is an obstacle, not an opportunity. And not to mention, they know all of your flaws, because they've worked with you for years. So they're like, right, you're the guy that brought a duck into the firehouse. And then, so you're telling me about responsibility. I'm like, well, yeah, kind of, sort of. Right. But it's the best gig going. But yeah, I like how out of all of those, I like the personality part, because I really think that I don't care how well you command when it comes to fire instructor, by the way, I'm talking about how well you command the material. And I don't care how comfortable you are in front of people. If you cannot connect with your students on some level,
Yeah.
then it's all for naught. We've all had those classes with people that have the monotone. They
Oh, yeah.
take themselves way too seriously. And one of the things that Aaron Fields said in one of the podcasts I
Yep.
got to do with him was he doesn't see himself as an instructor, but sort of a peer coaching kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's that might be semantics, but if you think about it, put yourself in that mindset, it kind of helps a little bit. It's little things like I like sitting down when I'm teaching my guys. Like I will sit down at their level instead of standing up and walking around. I think little things like that kind of help you to connect. Now you get to, well, I tell you what, let me back up here a second. You kind of got me intrigued on the social media article. Tell me about that.
So yeah, that one was my first one. I think it was 2019, but it just, I seen that the fact that there are so many firefighters that are sharing again their views and their opinions and stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's what social media is for, right? That's what makes it great, right? But I feel like it's used in an inappropriate manner. I think again, when we all share things, we're not thinking about it first. There's been how many firefighters in the area or all of this country that you're reading now are losing their jobs because of things that's being said or something that was said, a year ago or 2 years ago. And I think we need to be a lot more smarter and more sensitive to what we're posting or sharing or anything like that or commenting on, because you're representing, again, not only yourself, but your department, your community, and the service as a whole. And that's the last thing I want is somebody to ruin the image of their community or their department or their service because of an ignorant statement or comment. And a lot of times also with the social media aspect and there's so many great training platforms online now. And I think those are great, right? We got to go stay along with technology. But I also feel that the problem is that it pulls us away from the training ground, and they watched a video on YouTube and now they're a professional person on forcible entry or whatever.
Right.
And so I think there's some significant impacts with social media. Obviously, without social media, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. We wouldn't be able to share information out as efficiently as we could. But I also feel that it creates another problem in just another medium that we have, especially as in training world. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing. I teach a fire academy class we're actually currently in one right now, every year, and I have for over 11 years now straight. And when COVID happened, that was the year we set out, obviously. But I set out to do that because when I first joined the fire department, there's a few people that had firefighter 1 and 2 and hazmat training, and that kind of didn't sit with me. So I was like, we're going to do this. And I was a young instructor. I look back at some of those classes now, and I'm like, whoa, I've learned a lot. But it's been great. It's really blossomed into something that people look forward to. I already have 2 people waiting for next year's class in January of 2024. So we've made a pretty good, impression and name for ourselves in that. The fire facilities training helps us with that, obviously, with their tower. And there you go.
Good work in, by the way. Good work in.
But we got a really nice training facility. We're constantly keep growing on it and building on it. But we have usually 20 to 25 people every year in the class, and it's from Clark, Floyd, Jackson, Washington, Jefferson, Scott, everywhere around. So it's something I'm proud of being a part of, and we're making a difference in people that may not have had that opportunity anywhere else. So just trying to help the little guy,
That's amazing. And that's awesome, dude. I mean, and that's at its very core what the fire department is. It is brothers helping brothers. And it's easy to lose that vision as you go along. I know I have, right? I've had my down times. I haven't always been this handsome and this awesome. I know you're thinking, oh my God, you've always been a beautiful man and so good at your job. But guess what? That's not the case. But it's people like you that keep me motivated, talking to people like you. and others that makes me realize that because I made a bunch of mistakes in the past, doesn't mean that I have to make them in the future. And this is kind of my self-imposed penance, right? I struggled at first admitting some of the stupid stuff I did, right? And I took once you take your ego out of it and realize, hey, somebody else can learn from your mistake. Not everybody has to do what you did. So I think that helps. It's kind of therapeutic with this podcast. When somebody brings something up, I go, hey, I used to be an asshole like that. Hey, because it's realistic. I mean, and everybody I've talked to in my podcast have been very open and honest, super humble. And they're like, yeah, like I remember the first one I did with Jared Sergi, and I was just such a fanboy over the guy. And great book, right?
Yep.
And he said, like, yeah, I have down times too, man. I come to work and I don't want to hit a lick. I don't want to do anything. And I remember when I heard that, I was like, wait, wow. Okay. Yeah. So you can really be a go-getter in this industry. Right. And care about your job, love your job, realize that hopefully not victims, the community is number one, and still have bad days and still make mistakes and never be 100% perfect guy. I've met only one person in almost 30 years that told me what a great firefighter he was, unsolicited. Probably disagree, but just the fact that he had to bring it up kind of made me think, And now, having gone to conferences and classes and all that other stuff and have met the actual real deals, I'm like, I don't know if that guy is really that good.
Yeah. That's something I've, as we mature and as we grow, it's something that I've, right.
That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah. So something I've, kind of turned a new leaf on and is in the past year or two, I've really tried to, acknowledge people that's just played a role in your career. I think it's important. I mean, sometimes we wait until they retire to say, praise them or to say some, kind words about them, or to share them or tag them in something. Why do we wait until they're retired or they're, at their last turn of their careers, or they're passed away at this point, At that point, I mean, so I really feel like it's important to, just to appreciate the people that have been a part of your career, has helped you be successful, or just been an encouragement or motivation. And that was one of the things that we had talked about as far as I made a post probably 2 or 3 weeks ago in regards to I think that torch that us as instructors have and the responsibility that we carry to make the next people behind us, better. And at the end of that, I actually included several people that I feel are, and I could went on with more, but I mean, there's a lot of people, Jared LJ was just on your podcast, and those guys are motivating guys, the words that they share. But as far as on a personal level for me, I've met you a couple times and I enjoy the podcast. I think the things that you're doing with the basement fires and the 1403 is incredible. And, you got a great personality to follow. So I enjoy
come
that.
On.
I enjoy that.
You're going to ask me out on a date. The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
At the end of it. We got to wait till the end. So
kind words, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much.
But I mentioned that John Schaefer that just took the director's position at DHS, great friend of mine. He is, I couldn't have been more happy for him to have that position. He's did a lot for me, and has gotten me in the door with a lot of things with FDIC, the Fire Instructors Association, several other things as well. So I'm, I feel like it's important to recognize him. And then one that's very close and dear to you is Mr. Bill Banta. So I know that
Chief Billy Banta.
I know. It's just I had to put him in there because I've worked with him before.
Yes.
And no, Bill's
I love
a great
the guy. I love the guy, but he doesn't listen to this podcast. Come on, he doesn't do that. So for those listening, we're talking about Bill Banta. He's the chief of Georgetown Fire Department, which is kind of sort of in between me and Eric.
He was on my department before that.
He was there, and then he was at Jeffersonville Fire Department, and he retired from Louisville Fire Department.
Right.
Tons of experience. Great instructor. Love the guy to death. He's about 2.5 feet tall. And he's most of that's mustache, but I
Right.
love the guy.
Oh yeah, for
super,
sure.
super nice guy. All
So
mustache.
he got me on the racetrack at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I was on the fire rescue team up there, and he did it for probably close to 20 years. I don't know, but and he got on, so I got a chance to do that with him, and that was great.
Now, do you know Worley? Do you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, love me some Worley too. He works for my fire department. Great guy.
Yeah, he's still up there.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I think he is. Him and his wife both.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, Worley's one of those guys you can plug in anywhere in the fire service, and he's going to make it better. Great guy. Another guy that is just mostly mustache. Another guy that's just mostly mustache. I'm just jealous. That's all I'm saying. Yep. So you brought up FDIC. I think it's super cool that you're doing FDIC stuff. So tell me, how long have you been doing it, and what are you teaching up there?
So this is my third year, and I don't have my actual official class yet. I'm working on something to propose for next year, but this year will be my third year doing FDIC. And so what I do is the state actually has several instructors that they will choose and select and kind of get a help with the hot classes, right? So it's the last 2 years has been an incredible experience. So the last 2 years I had the same class, which is live rescue under live fire considerations, the Wayne Township site, and it's the same training tower that it uses for the Indiana smoke divers. And it was.
Is that the one that has the great big tower in the middle that you can oversee everything?
That's the one. Wayne Township has the original like 8-story concreted structure.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. So we use the other one that's a little smaller next to it.
Is that the Connex, the Connex boxes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Sean Grass teaches the fire or flashover chamber next to us.
Nice.
But Chief Joe Alvarez, out of New Jersey, him and his group Rescue 42s come down and put on this class. It's an amazing class. And to be a part of that, become really good friends with those guys, has been a humbling experience. They're just down to earth people, and they got that Jersey, New York accent, and they're come out of a live burn, just smoking cigars and everything. It's just a whole nother world, but it's, they're great. And to take the students through, and you get a chance to meet students from Kansas and Missouri and Oklahoma and everywhere that's just coming to the FDIC just to better themselves, to be humble,
right?
I'm not here to be better than anybody else. I'm here to learn this craft. You've got guys that are started a year ago, to the guys that are assistant chiefs of the fire department going through training. And to me, I think that's just incredible to see. I mean, FDIC is such an amazing experience. For years, I always just went to the show. And then when I started getting a part of this, you realize the show is just like the icing, it's the cherry on top. It's to be a part of people that want to be there, that aren't forced to be there because they have to meet a meeting quota or because they're on shift or whatever, that have paid money and traveled across the country just to listen to other people teach their craft and their specialty. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And to be a part of that is just an incredible experience, to take guys through these courses and these scenarios and such. And this year I'm actually going to be with Andy Starnes' class. And so,
you kind of look like Andy Starnes.
Yeah. I know you had him on your podcast not too long ago.
Mm-hmm. Great fella. Amazing guy.
He's an absolutely fantastic person. And I have reached out to him multiple times in regard to thermal imaging cameras and just different things. And you could call him on his phone. He'll answer the phone right away, and he'll sit there and help you and give you any answers, not holding back information. He gives it to you honest. And his passion for the fire service is great. Is fantastic. And so I'm very much looking forward to reaching out with him this year and meeting up and doing that class together. I'm excited about it.
You got to send me that information. I'll be up there all week doing different things for the podcast. But I would love to come by and watch you
Yep.
guys work and
Yep.
and talk to Andy. The funny thing is, when I had him on the podcast, it was a very narrow-minded view of me, to be honest with you. I was like, I can't wait to get him on there and talk about inside and ticks. We didn't talk about it even once.
Yeah.
So
He talked a lot about mental health and stuff, didn't he?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
He's big on that.
He's passionate about it, and to have
Absolutely.
people like care that deeply. I tell you another one. Jason Patton is another one. Blake Stinnett from Next Rung. Big shout out to Next Rung. Next Rung is an amazing organization. But yeah, so you'll be doing that with them. Is that what days are that during?
It's,
you say Monday and Tuesday, right?
Monday and Tuesday's the hot classes. Wednesday and Thursday's the conference, and then Friday's pretty much the show.
Right.
And then Saturday's the show. But we're at the Wayne Township location, and for offsite hot classes. They'll have Fields will be there. Well, he usually is there. He's teaching his nozzle forward. And then there's they do an engine company operations on the backside. Sean Grass is doing the flashover. Normally, I just assume that's what's been the last few years. And then Andy Starnes and his group will be doing their search and rescue with under live fire with the thermal imaging cameras and such. So it's intelligent search class. So I'm aggressive intelligent search class. So I'm much looking forward to that.
I wonder how they use those ticks for. I mean, they can't use live victims. So how do the ticks come into play there?
Yeah, I don't know about that. That's something I'm actually interested in seeing.
Right.
Is how they're going to use the thermal imaging with rescue dummies or what they're rescue Randys or whatever they're using now. So
right.
Unless there's a way that something they can put on them to kind of put us heat. I don't know. It's a good question.
Now they do make them that you can heat them up and stuff, and battery. They got everything now.
No, sure.
Of course, if Dave Mellon's there, I'm sure Dave would just go into the live fire, sit down in his underwear.
So John Schaefer is actually the one that got me on that, hooked up with that, and like I said, it's a fantastic opportunity. Just kind of like I was talking about earlier, where I'm at the point now where it's, I want to recognize the people that inspire me, and motivate me and that have either meant something to me or whatever, and just trying to pass that on. So I got another firefighter that works part-time for us and is full-time with the fire department just a little north, and so he's got what he needs to get up there. I got him approved, and he's going to be up there with me too, and I'm just excited for him to get the FDIC experience as I was the first time going. So it's pay it forward. Somebody gave you an opportunity at one time, so it's time to pass that opportunity on.
I totally agree. And what I'm struggling with right now is how everybody doesn't feel the way you touch on a little bit, how everybody doesn't feel the way I feel. And I know that's the wrong way to think about it. But I've been married twice, so clearly I don't make the best decisions. So, but I think about the person that comes to work and does 20, 30 years at the fire department.
Yeah.
And maybe this person is a fantastic firefighter, right? Great guy. And then he's gone. Nobody knows his name, right? Except the people that he worked with. So, and this is, it sounds horrible, but I guess what I'm trying to say is those are the kind of people I feel should be shouting from the roof all the cool stuff they know, who taught it to them, and I hate to see when I think about people's legacy a lot, because I have worked with some fantastic firefighters in the past and they share and everything like that. But I feel like, you look at these other people like LJ Geist and Coralie Moore, all these people, Joshua Chase, they are taking their message and their experience and they're putting it out there for everybody.
Right.
And it's so inspiring, so motivating. And that's what I'm struggling with right now. Like there's a guy I work with, several guys I work with that are just next level. And I'm like, how come you're not writing articles or teaching classes at conferences? I can't, I'd give anything if I can get some of these guys out there doing that, because there's a lot of great talent out there. And I feel like it's our responsibility to let people know what we know. It's not arrogance. Nobody ever says, hey, look what I invented.
Right.
It's just like you said, people teach me stuff. Now it's my turn to teach other people.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you don't do that, then you're just kind of stopping that line of knowledge. And I hate that.
Oh yeah. And that was what was on my post a couple of weeks ago. It was like, it's something that I was just thinking about, but like, I feel as a fire and service instructor that there's so many people that go out and get the instructor certification, and they might use it around the station at times, or help a couple of guys over here or whatever, and that's okay. But that's not what my purpose with that being instructor is, and I consider myself being an instructor as something that I hold. I'm very proud of, and it's my biggest passion. The fire service is training. Without training, we're just a bunch of people standing here looking at one another. Without training, we're not, where we go from here. And I think sometimes we lose focus on the significant impact that an instructor has, from a new recruit to a person that shows interest in wanting to be applied for the fire service, to the guy that's getting ready to retire. I think it's one of the most difficult jobs and most unappreciated jobs in the fire service if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And simply just because we lose so much focus on how hard it is, and you're not going to be appreciated, you're not going to be thanked. You are there to do it and log all the paperwork and log all the records and put in the time setting up props and making sure everybody's doing it the right way and safely and effectively, but passing on that purpose, or that why did you join this fire department, and maintain that passion. And so what I said is that I think it's extremely important for all fire instructors that play a significant role in their department, or are people out here making a difference in social media or making a difference in the world in the fire service, they have to be the most well-oiled machines. They have to be the most fine-tuned. They have to be the one that's constantly learning, constantly adapting to every new change in the fire service. Just 2 months ago, we had an EV class, and that was something that's coming into this fire service. Something we're going to have to experience it at some point. But what I specifically stated was, and I actually had wrote it down because I was like, man, I didn't even remember what I said. But I said, the fire service instructor holds the torch, so don't let that burn out. Keep the flames hot and bright so you can continue to encourage, motivate, and hopefully build others, so one day they can hold the same torch higher and make it burn brighter and hotter. Okay. Sounds a little corny and cheesy, but at the same time, the purpose of it is we all have a responsibility to do. And if your morale is down in your department, if the morale's down in training, if morale's down in whatever, I do feel just as much as a company officer is with the chief of the fire department. A lot of that falls back on your motivation and your effort that you should be putting into your people. And it's definitely an easy job, or not a difficult job, not an easy job.
I was about to call you on that one.
Yeah. And but it's the most rewarding too, though. When you have students come through your courses or come through your classes, and they're calling you to say, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know I just got hired at this fire department." That's a great feeling to know that part of the beginning of their career was with you, and their basic core fundamentals you was able to kind of to give them, and to know that they've been successful and make it into the job they set out for is very rewarding, and that's what it's all about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So my journey was a little different. I didn't want to be an instructor. I was one of those guys that got my instructor one just because it was available. Like I was trying to take all the classes, but I never wanted to be a training instructor, training officer. And then all of a sudden I got asked to do it, and I took it, and I loved it. Don't get me wrong, I think it was great. One of the best things I've ever done in my career. But when I took it to that next step and joined the ISFSI, the International Society of Fire Service Instructors, I was immediately meeting heavy hitters in our industry that are instructors. I was getting to meet these people and learn from them. And that really opened up my mind to what this job as an instructor could really truly be, that there was so much more, because up to that point, I hadn't done a lot of teaching outside my own department. Mm-hmm. And when I got to do that, that was like the other half of the job. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Some people look forward to having you stand in front of them and talk and show things. Oh, wow. People pay money for this, right?
Yeah.
That changed everything for me. And I highly, highly encourage everybody that's listening. If you're not a member of the ISFSI, go to isfsi.org. No, they're not a sponsor. I just really like them that much.
Yeah.
And they, especially right now, being a fire service instructor with the UL, NIST, FSRI studies and stuff, bringing science to the street, man. The ISFSI is working hand in glove with these organizations to deliver this stuff. Like, we're the only organization that does that. But it's an interesting time for us because so much of what we've done that we didn't know we were doing, the reason why we were doing it and we were doing it right is great. The science is proving it. And then there are some things that we could probably do a little bit better, or even better, eliminate altogether based on what we've learned about the science. And that for instructors can be a tough road to hoe because some people just don't want to hear it. They've got their experience and that's all there is to it. They're like, water does push fire. I've seen it. Well, tell me about the vent openings of that structure you're in when you saw it. Well, I don't know. I was on the line.
Right.
Then you had your perspective, So that can be tough. And going back to your KSAP, here's where I probably fail in the P part of this when it comes to fire-based stuff and my own people. I get a little aggravated that they don't want to hear it at all. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so my personality kind of comes off a little rough. I'm like, oh my God, dude, I'm telling you, Governor's Island, look it up. It's documented. But nobody tuned in to listen to me. They want to listen to you. So what struggles have you seen when you became a fire instructor at Scottsburg to where you're at now? What have the struggles been for you? What have you learned? What can you share with us that we don't have to fall in those pits?
Oh, wow. Well, every day, I mean, we make mistakes every day. So, I mean, it's not like we've ever, mastered it. I think for us and for me specifically was just, there wasn't a lot of opportunities. We're, again, from a small little city, 30 miles north of Louisville. And at that time was almost primarily a volunteer department. And we had our regular meetings and we were doing good trainings there, but there was no room to grow. There was no guidance to say, here's what we need to do next. And I look at a lot of things, and I try to tell this to a lot of people, though, but capitalize on opportunities, small little opportunities. Just jump out of your comfort zone, and it'll take you. You're gonna fail, and you're gonna learn from that failure, or you're gonna grow and succeed. And Amen. I can't tell you how many times I have felt extremely uncomfortable teaching a class or talking with people that are way bigger and above what I consider myself to be. But that's also what's developed me into having these connections and these people that I've been able to learn from and grow with and become very strong friends with, that's been able to help me have opportunities that I have. So again, I would say step out of your comfort zone, set yourself goals, set your departmental goals and your personal goals, and just do what you got to do to reach for them. I mean, again, I referenced John Schaefer, which is now the director of training for the state. And
a fantastic dude, by the way.
Again, he's been a extremely helpful hand with me. And so when COVID was going on, he reached out to me and was like, hey, would you be willing to write with me a online fire officer we did two fire officer 2 program? And I'm like, sure. So we had put a PowerPoint together and we wrote all the script and we narrated it. And we did 3 years of Fire Officer 2 with the Indiana Fire Instructor Association. And me ended up being a lead instructor for one and a lead evaluator for the other. Mm-hmm. And I was very nervous because here I am going, we're doing our Zoom nights, and I have the chief of Lebanon, all the chief staff of Elkhart, Noblesville, Zionsville, a couple guys from IFD Airport, Carmel. I mean, all these fire departments that are significantly bigger than where I'm from and what I'm doing. and they are listening to me teach these guys Fire Officer 2. I can't tell you how it looked. It may look like I was fine, but I was nervous, you know, and I was very confident in what I'm talking about and the material I'm covering. But when I'm just, you know, me being from where I'm from and my little department and really making big waves is something that was uncomfortable. And then I don't know if you've ever met Chief Need before. He's the deputy chief of Lafayette. And
I don't think so. Maybe I have. I'd have to see.
He's a fantastic person. He's doing a lot of teaching for the MAID in Plainfield and everything else. But so he was our lead instructor for our final year of doing it, and I was his lead evaluator. And again, people from all over the state, from high-level departments, and just being a part of that. Again, that's just something simple. The FDIC and other opportunities that, you know, just take you out there. And so, I mean, again, if anything, I could just say, just capitalize on opportunities. It's going to be uncomfortable, but if you have a good heart in it, your passion's in the right place, you know the material, go out there and do your best. And, you know, you're going to make some progress and very positive impact in the world. And that's so far, again, that's what I've been able to do. And I'm something I'm proud of. And to step out of that comfort zone again and take advantage of those opportunities given.
Yeah, I always say if I could go back to my younger self in the fire service, I remember everybody saying, you got to go to these, well, back then everything was fire schools. You got to go to this fire school.
We had every fire school.
Yeah, you got to network. You got to network. And I'm like, what's networking have to do with it? It's not important. I have learned in my old age, it is huge. If you're a new firefighter and you're listening to this, first off, why? No, just kidding. But you need to network, go to conferences, get the knowledge, and then go have a drink with these students and teachers. Yes. It is amazing opportunity. Right. It's not something I can quantify for you. It's not something I can give you everything about. It's just, dude, it is so awesome. And for example, I think today I was on the phone with a friend in Minnesota. A couple of days ago, I was on the phone with a friend from Detroit, California, Canada. You know, if I need to talk to somebody, I've made those connections, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Maybe I'm teaching a class on leadership and I get a hold of them. I'm like, hey, what do you all do? Send me your stuff. And it's just an amazing opportunity. It really is. Have you
ever spoke to or met with Rick Gorge?
No, I'm trying to get him on my podcast.
He's incredible. So one of the trainings that I've been developing over the last few years, and I honestly didn't know who he was at the time, was a psychology, you know, firefighter survival and the psychology that we kind of go through. So like the senses, you know, when we lose our senses of sight and we lose our senses of hearing and all these other things. And I was thinking, as I'm doing my research, his name popped up and I'm like, okay. So then I got to research him a little bit more and I'm like, oh, this guy's has already did a ton of work of this topic that I'm trying to, this material I'm trying to put together. So I reached out to him, and extremely humble person, and is willing to share all his information and knowledge, and he's a student of the craft, you know. And I can remember I've got his book of Firefight Resiliency, and it's an incredible book, and you know, especially the first part of it is his part, and it's just incredible. The whole time I'm reading, I'm going, yes, you know. It's like you relate to everything about it. And I was having a bad day. I was getting aggravated with some things and at work, and I reached out to him and sent him an email. I'm like, hey man, you know, we talked about some things in your book, and I'm just kind of referencing you. And he emailed me back like instantly, and it was just like we were lifelong friends. We'd never met, you know. Right. And just that, but the advice he gave me was just, I mean, I referenced that email quite often actually, and you know, it's just things like that. You know, take advantage of opportunities, appreciate the people that's meant something to you, and it's gonna come full circle at some point. And you know, at the end of the day, when you know that you've made a difference to somebody and for somebody, I mean, that's the greatest, you know, feeling you can do. And as an instructor, we get that opportunity a lot.
Right.
I'm surrounded by some great people. I mean, we have a good organization, and we have our struggles like anybody does, right? But we have a good organization, and we're surrounded by great people that want to learn and that want to provide the best, community or service to our community as we can. And we're doing a good job with that. And obviously, as an instructor, you always want more. You always want guys to dig a little deeper and to know it. But I truly think that's kind of what, the opportunities that taken advantage of and the experiences with the academy and everything else is kind of pretty much what I'm sure got the Fire Instructor of the Year thing. I mean, that was an incredible, humbling opportunity to be received that award. When I look at people that have been an impact to me, that's like, whoa, I'm not in that level, but again, that's just you take advantage of what you can, and that's all I can say about it. I mean,
we're just a mishmash of all the firefighters before us that took the time to teach us something.
That's it.
Now it's our responsibility to pass on their message and what we could add to it. But
that's it.
Rarely are we doing anything as an individual. We're always speaking from the ghost before us. It's
absolutely.
It's a wonderful thing, and I've always thought that the fire instructor is the wind and the sail of the fire service. It's it's we're too important. I'm not saying I'm important, but we as in the fire service, the fire instructor is too important a position to be overlooked or overwhelmed or underappreciated. If you haven't done our job, don't tell us how to do our job. But if they have done our job, then we have a responsibility to listen. I love when people tell me how to do my job that wouldn't want to do my job and, couldn't tell you what a nozzle is. That's my favorite kind of thing.
And everybody's going to experience this, but, sometimes we'll hear, we don't really have as many as I'd like to show up tonight or this training drill or something like that. And a lot of times I don't think it's they don't want to be there. But, you probably heard this at some point in your career too, but a lot of people don't like to show you what they don't know.
Yes.
And the older and I get, the more time I've had in, I understand that rings true a lot. Is great people and they're capable of doing it, but they don't want to show you what they don't know in front of anybody else. And unfortunately, we all have areas that we need to improve on. Now, we all have areas and topics that are not our strengths, but that's why you have people. That's why there's not a fire department with one person on it, right? And so at the end of the day, it's a team, and sometimes we can, lose focus on that, and individuals can lose focus on that. But regardless, I mean, each individual fire department has their job and their responsibility to take care of their community, provide fire protection, education, and safety to their community. And the neighboring department does the same. The neighboring department does the same. And in theory, we should all work together. And, I don't care where you're on the department at, and I don't care if you're a career, or I don't care if you're a volunteer. I don't care if you've had 1 year on or my dad has turned 40 years this year in the fire service. And I've seen guys that are volunteer for 5 years have more pride and passion in this career and this job than guys that are 20-year career.
That's exactly right. Seniority doesn't mean experience.
No. So to me, I think sometimes we need to be there for one another, support one another, and appreciate one another. And because we're all in the same service, we're all representing each other. And it doesn't matter if you are on FDNY or, wherever. We all have a goal to provide the best fire and rescue protection we can, so.
I couldn't agree more, brother. Let me ask you this. I like to end every podcast the same way.
Yep.
I think you know where I'm going with this. Can you tell me what's the best Firehouse prank you've ever played or been played on you?
Well, I don't know about that. We had
by law you have to tell us.
So it wasn't even actually at the firehouse, but it was we did a couple of things. We've had the whole, stale water and all that kind of stuff, we need to flush the hydrant out or flush this tank out because water's going stale type stuff. But we just had recently, actually, matter of fact, him. So I got a great video. So Billy Banta, Bill's son,
Right.
we took him to a restaurant for lunch. We all went out for lunch, and it wasn't even his birthday. If it was, I don't remember. And he ended up with a cream all over his face. He got sucker punched by this waitress or waiter. I'm sorry. And yeah, his face turned about as red as his hair was at the time, and he oh man, it was awful. But I can't think of any other thing that's happened around the firehouse that. Well, hold on a second.
There we go.
So this wasn't actually a prank. This was actually a mistake that happened, and it cost the city some money.
Ooh.
So this would have been probably 5 or 6 years ago. We were doing some master stream training, and one of our volunteer guys that came up and parked on the other side of the station. And I can't believe I'm telling you this, but he had a little 2-seater Roadster convertible. I don't know what it was. He still had paper tags on it. And these guys start changing the deck gun pattern to a different direction. And then somebody came around the corner of the building, like telling them, no, stop. And they had filled this car up. The convertible top was down, had filled the car up to the top of the doors. Water's just pouring over the doors. Totaled it.
Oh my God.
And so I do not envy that I was not the chief that had to explain to the mayor at that time of how he needs to turn in a vehicle into an insurance claim. But it worked out.
Now, wait a minute. So here, okay, it's all how you spin it. So here's the way I see it. Hey, chief, we started a community car wash. Our goal was to help, the citizens with dirty cars. Having done it now once, we're starting to think we can probably focus our efforts in other ways to help the community. Do you have any other ideas? See, just that simple.
Yeah.
And then asking for $50,000 to pay for the car. But that's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a used car. Luckily, it was like under 10,000, but it was, oh yeah, I will never forget it. I think it was like a small little BMW.
Oh man.
Like a X3 or I can't remember what they call those things, but.
Wow. So you turned it into a submarine, basically.
Yes. Yes. That was probably the craziest or stupidest thing that ever happened. I was not on the nozzle. I was not on the deck gun. I was actually far away, but I seen it coming over. I seen it going over the building, and I'm like, why are they going over there? And yeah.
Awesome.
That happened.
Well, brother, I appreciate your time on here. I'm glad you decided to come on here. It means a lot to me. I think the world of you. And thank you so much for your time, brother.
Appreciate it.
Stay safe. Our podcast today was sponsored by Fire Facilities. This Made in America company is dedicated to constructing top quality custom training structures to meet your needs. Make your training count with all steel structures that are made to last. Visit firefacilities.com for more details.